Hey everybody, it's the Last Robokai here, and welcome to episode 7 of Let's Play Dawn of War. Last time we beat up the Eldar some more and had a big old talk about it as we went. This episode's pretty much a little shorter, but not by much, because again, it's the Eldar, and they are going to be hitting us with quite a lot. In fact, they're going to be hitting us with the big one this time, their relic unit, and it's an experience, to say the least. Joining me, as always, is...
Yeah, it's a Big E experience. It's cool, guy. What's up? Like this will probably be another semi podcast on the Eldar. So enjoy it.
Yeah, but that's all good because this game is just fun to watch as it is.
Hell yes.
Yeah, so let's get stuck straight in.
The appearance of the Eldar is a complete mystery to me. I have dealt with these treacherous aliens in the past and have never seen rhyme nor reason to their actions. It is unnerving. I prefer the Orc as an opponent. For all their brutality, there is a twisted form of honor with the Orcs. They meet their opponent on the field of battle, but the Eldar seem to have contempt for all. Fighting them is like shooting at mist and shadows. Isidore spent hours interpreting the runes on the marker that was unearthed by the forces of chaos, and has discovered what they seek. He claims it is some form of key, but to unlock what, he is unsure. Never mind. It is enough that the Chaos forces seek it. The key lies in the ruined city of St. Louvre-Mar.
Our choices are gone. We have but one recourse left. Do you understand what is asked of you?
You cannot ask that which I offer freely, Farseer. My life is yours.
It belongs to all Elder now, brave one. You will become the war cry made manifest. The host is assembled, and we fully commit ourselves to the battle. You are the best of us. May Lamenters and Khaine bind you worthy of becoming his avatar. Then the humans shall have the death they seek.
This delay! You cost us the key, Sindri. The false Emperor's lackeys and Eldar will battle for the city. They are not but hapless fools before your might, Lord Biel. Surely, a modicum of patience is in order here. Matters progress to your benefit and my devices. You'll see. Have faith. Have I led you astray thus far? No. But if you fail me in this... Yes, then my suffering will be great. Just be ready to move when I instruct.
Just a bit longer, and then the key will be mine.
You are approaching the objective. On your guard, brothers. The key is located in this monument, which is currently held by the Eldar. An ambush! Foul Xenos! We must find our way through the city to the monument and take it from these treacherous aliens.
And away we go! Yes, so the relic unit of of the Eldar is the Avatar of Khaine, the shard of the bloody-handed god that rests in each Craftworld, can during times of war be, I would say, not so much summoned as in it actually just goes, hey, I want to fight once the war sort of starts to get big enough for the Eldar. And they have one of their exarchs on the Craftworld head off and go in there, basically naked, holding like the sword, the Wailing Doom, I believe, and maybe one other thing. And then they close the doors. There's a lot of really loud and horrible noises, and then the doors of the Avatar's chambers burst open, and out the Avatar of Khaine storms, hand bleeding eternally with the blood of the Eldar that he consumed in order to manifest. And also, yeah, he the soul of that particular Eldar is completely gone.
Yeah, it's worth noting that when he says consumed, he really means consumed. The soul of the Eldar used in this process is less gone and more like unmade. It's more like that Eldar never existed to begin with. It's pretty fucking hardcore.
Yeah, and it would pretty much take only an Exarch to be willing to go through with something like that. Also, to be a suitable sacrifice to Khaine, because, like we said before, the Exarchs are the best representation of martial prowess in an aspect warrior shrine outside of the Phoenix Lords. And so, I then didn't go on and explain why that is for either of them. So the thing about the Exarchs is that they sort of don't apply the same rules everybody else does when it comes to the usage of a Spirit Stone after the person dies. An Exarch's armor, in effect, is laced with Spirit Stones. Every previous Exarch is still a part of that suit, and as a result, anybody who puts that suit on, who is deemed worthy to do so, becomes part of that collective. And they might not all get along, but they do bestow their general martial knowledge and experiences upon the wearer, who then in turn becomes a part of the suit himself, eventually, upon his or her death, becoming the next, person inhabiting it when the next Eldar puts it on. That's different to the Phoenix Lords, who were extremely capable Eldar who basically didn't just go down the path of the martial power that the Exarchs go down to the point of obsession. They founded them, and as a result, one of the strange things is that a Phoenix Lord is always the first person who wore that armor. Anyone who puts that armor on afterwards is completely sublimated by the initial personality, so strong is their will. So the soul is still technically there, but that soul does not think, it does not feel. Essentially, it is just the Phoenix Lord. And here he comes, the Avatar of Khaine.
Here you go.
He starts attacking early and often, and regens quite quickly. When you get him down low enough, he walks off again, and of course, he'll be walking off into an Eldar base, so attacking him is a little bit difficult. So we'll be dropping him off a few times before we actually get our things together, before we can, actually kill him. Also, there are, mines laid in our way, which is problematic. If you're lucky, the AI can bug out and you can kill him.
If he keeps failing his pathing orders like that, you might knock him out early.
Yeah, it is entirely possible to kill the Avatar of Khaine in that first encounter.
It's very much about how well or how poorly the Avatar paths, because if the Avatar follows its orders properly, yeah, never mind, you lucked out.
He's gonna leave. He's gonna leave.
Oh, come on! You could have gotten that.
There were landmines there blowing us up. Anyway, and also, I didn't want to kill him too quickly.
Yeah,
anyway.
That was the actual reason, is you didn't want to just chump him in the first 5 minutes and ruin the narrative that goes behind the Avatar of Khaine. And there is an amazing narrative behind the Avatar of Khaine. This is the easiest human analog is if we're talking about something like Ares, the god of war, coming down and literally taking part in battles. There's a lot of times that he does that in Homeric epics or whatever, and that's basically what we're talking about here.
Yeah. And it is interesting to note when I talk about how he sort of fires up the Eldar as well. They feed into him, he feeds into them, and Eldar will fight hard and everything like that. That is mechanically represented in the game. Some of the things that happen when you summon the Avatar of Khaine as an Eldar player is the ceiling of your maximum potential squad cap and vehicle cap is actually buffed. You still have to build your supply thingies and research thingies in order to get it up that high. But it still can go up to, I believe it's a squad cap of 24, a vehicle cap of 30. So when the Avatar is on the field, that's a lot more fire prisms. That's a lot scarier. But
Remember,
of course,
usually it's 20 and 20.
yeah, and the other thing is that the production times of troop building at webway assemblies and aspect portals, where your standard infantry are built, is halved. So you can pump out troops a lot faster. In addition to this, if you choose to have the Avatar walk into battle, nearby infantry do not take morale damage, so they will not break. So the Avatar is like the other units don't. Like, the other relic units don't have that kind of an effect. Like, the Avatar of Khaine is a seriously big deal to be put on the tabletop, and you don't even have to, like, send it into battle. You could just leave it in your base, and you've already got way more of an advantage over everybody else.
Yup, and that's frequently what a lot of players did in multiplayer. Is you would pick up the Avatar of Khaine, and then he would just do exactly nothing. He would just be chilling at the base. He might be around to handle like a back cap sort of thing that you might try to roll, but no, he's not moving, and the Eldar player is now just going to win by attrition, which is the weirdest thing to say with regard to Eldar.
But by that same token, if the Avatar of Khaine is out, the Eldar are committed to exactly that, so it kind of works. I was wondering why one of my units got, like, wiped out earlier, like, got broken and wiped out, and it was basically because there was a unit of scouts in that crater, like, sniping them to death, and I didn't even notice.
I had noticed that earlier, and I was like, I mean, at the immediate moment, I didn't think it was snipers. I thought it was something like the Avatar just screwing people up with his fire support. But I don't know, even that sounded weird. Okay, those Howling Banshees are not the smartest tools.
Yeah, I'm not sure what attack they were committing to there. It's it's a little weird, but whatever.
More Rangers.
I'm quite fond of the Phoenix Lords as well in terms of story. I like the idea that they're basically the heroes of old, of like the Eldar Great Wars, except still alive. We talk about the idea of the Greek gods coming down. Well, I guess you might call the Phoenix Lords the Greek heroes. They represent specific stories and tragedies. Like the entire thing of the Eldar is there's a lot of mythology and stuff in it as well, which is pretty cool. And they do have a little bit of, like, especially in the Aspect Warriors, they do have a little bit of the Greek stylings to them, particularly with like the Dire Avengers. They have helmets that are fairly reminiscent of more sort of Greek war helmets, only stylized and pointier and with bigger fanfare and things like that. So they're sort of, I guess you might say, the Aspect Warriors are modeled upon the warrior societies of older Greece.
They absolutely are. Like there's, when you start looking for those sorts of parallels, it's very simple to find many of the same parallels, and especially when you start talking about the Phoenix Lords and even just the way they're regarded. Like even in modern days, like we regard Odysseus, the protagonist of the Odyssey, with a number of very specific bywords, and he represents some very specific things to modern society. And the Phoenix Lords work exactly the same way with the Eldar. I believe it's the Dark Reapers, Phoenix Lord. Had a very similar thing to Agamemnon, in that he wasn't like the smartest tool in the shed. He wasn't the most cunning person or whatever. But boy, when he got his blood up, there was nobody who could stand against him. And he had, like, if I remember correctly, I'm actually blanking a little bit on the specifics of the Dark Reapers as Phoenix Lord. He had a similar downfall in that it had nothing to do with battle. It had everything to do with basically the Venusian arts versus the martial arts. Like he was brought down by social pressure and so forth.
Yeah, I don't really know much about like the personal expanded histories of all the characters. Mostly just what they represent and how they sort of respond to a lot of things. I know Morgan Ra as the Dark Reaper one. I think his original founding shrine was on a craft world that actually got lost in the Eye of Terror, and more sort of towards the 13th Crusade, he actually managed to find that craft world and help drag it out of the Eye of Terror, which is kind of impressive.
That's insane.
Yeah, everyone sort of used, like, a craft world was, the people in that craft world were still there, they were still alive, they had just been endlessly fighting a war to keep themselves alive inside of there.
Okay, I'm calling bullcrap on that one. Endlessly fighting a war. Yeah, that's what it would be, because when you're in the Eye of Terror, you're basically, like, sautéed in the warp in real space. So every time you try to freaking sleep, every time you try to sit down for a meal, every time you turn around, another little demon just crawls out of your nose or some garbage. It's just like, I'm sorry, the trauma of that conflict would have snapped their psyches in half.
Well, let's just say, perhaps time. The fact that time makes very little sense in the warp might have helped them out a bit, but by that same token, the other Eldar don't really trust them, more or less for that reason.
I wouldn't blame them. I wouldn't if I was them. Thank God I'm not them. Freaking Eldar and their music.
Oh dear. It is worth noting that the Howling Banshee Phoenix Lord, Jane Zar, she is sort of closely allied to the to the new faction, of Inari. She is
okay. I was gonna say Iniads.
Yeah, she's defending Ivrain quite handily. And it's worth noting actually, and I always find this really funny. The Exarch that more or less made her go, "I'm leaving the craft world, thanks, bye." Because he wanted, like, it's kind of disturbing to say, but I think he was kind of obsessed with her, perhaps because he saw in her the great potential that eventually would be seen. But it's kind of like, yeah, he wanted her to take his place after he passed on, which then allow him to essentially be like bugging her full time while she wore the armor. And I'm guessing he was perhaps way beyond full on in that regard, and that's why she got out of there. And apparently the rest of the armor, the souls in that armor, agree they do not like him.
It's the definition. He's just the definition of extra. This cat is extra, and we don't like it.
It is bad. But actually, what ended up happening is after she fled, he went on to travel to Komrar as well, under cover of pretending to be one of the weird martial warrior people of Komrar, and it was actually by that measure they were able to prevent her getting murderized shortly after she was declared the Incarn spokesperson.
Yup.
Which is like, it's like, well, these things happen for a reason, I guess. But not
Still,
a good look,
though.
dude. Not a good look, dude. Not a good look.
Not a good look. That's the easy way to put it.
Dear.
When you were fighting the Avatar just then, I heard people yelling to fall back and regroup, and I saw an uncomfortable amount of red down here.
Yeah.
Was kind of curious what was going on. I guess it was just howling banshees.
A lot of pockets are just like Eldar hanging around, being stupid. In this map, the map is essentially split in half. So you have to get pretty much to the top middle, like pretty much north, and there'll be a control point we got to take in order to open a gate, so we can go the rest of the way in. So that's another reason why this mission takes a little longer, is because you essentially have to track all the way up, all the way around, and then across, and so it takes a little bit. And I don't know.
That's the end of that servitor.
Yeah, I don't know why he was doing that. I'm just like, well, he's dead. Not much I can do about that one. He's gonna get clipped just at the end and die.
Are you serious?
Okay, he doesn't. Okay, I think he'll get killed. I think he gets killed on the way back because he just, rather than going around the other way.
Freaking pile of bolts on the planet.
So he's, well, like I said, he dies. Who's your favorite Phoenix Lord, by the way? Cool guy. Do you have a favorite Phoenix Lord?
That would imply that I like Eldar, so no.
Okay. My favorite is Fuegan, the one for the fire dragons.
Yeah.
He is he is very, very cool. I like him a lot. If I was gonna still collect and get an Eldar army, he would definitely be my favorite. Because there's a lot of things about him. In essence, the idea of the death of the Eldar, the Rana Dandra, he will be the last Phoenix Lord to die. And basically how he works is he grasps the serpent of knowledge and entropy in either hand, and I guess forces them to kiss or something. It's kind of weird. But in one hand he has an axe which just cleaves through everything. It's got like runes of fire on it that like burning so hot the runes are actually going, ow, that's really hot actually, and writhing on it. And he's also got this basically where the fire dragons go is they run up to an enemy tank, they melt a gun it to death because they essentially use the Eldar equivalent of melter guns, and usually then the other player targets them with everything they've got and they die. Like that's not supposed to happen, but that's exactly what happens.
The reality of the situation is that when I didn't really know anything about fire dragons until they eventually made it into Dawn of War 1, I believe it was Dark Crusade.
Winter Assault.
When they made it in? Huh?
Winter Assault. They come in Winter Assault.
It was Winter Assault. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I couldn't remember, but like I hadn't thought too much about Eldar in even remotely close combat, because we've gone over it. Howling Banshees just. They're not that terribly impressive in game. They hit like a ton of bricks, but they cannot take a punch. Like if you can absorb their first attack, they're Dunsky. But then Fire Dragons came out, and those freaking like basically melt-a shotguns they were no bueno. Like they were kill on fucking sight.
Yeah, and so like you generally like my battle plan when playing against other people was to put them in a falcon, wait till everybody else committed, jump the falcon over everybody, land them directly behind the enemy lines amongst anything that was like armor, and just go bye and just melt everything. And
that's like not just no, but hell no.
And the entire enemy army would have to turn to fight them, which would again assist my army pressing on them. It's great. I love that sort of thing.
I had that exact tactic pulled on me. Well, less the jump transport, but just like committing the fire dragons after the main furball had started. I had that exact tactic pulled on me like 3 or 4 times in the multiplayer of this game, and I hated it.
So look forward to that. Like they were kind of like a missing piece of the Eldar puzzle in that they didn't really have a good anti-armor response that was infantry before then. I mean, like Dark Reapers, they were okay against lighter armor, but Fire Dragons are just
Predator.
And Fire Dragons are just gonna. They were a necessary
Fire
inclusion.
Dragons are no bueno.
And I gotta say, like the Aspect Warriors, like even though it probably wasn't the intention, but boy, they've got some like strong Power Rangers to them. You know,
they're
really
like, do
color themed. They've got a specific weapon kind. They pose dramatically. Like the Fire Dragons have like this, like they basically have this big wide leg stance with their melter weapons held from their crotches. I don't need to explain that much beyond that. I think this is where we finally get him.
Yeah, I mean, he's just sort of tooling around at the end of that.
I am a little sad if I didn't notice that sooner, because you can there's actually a sync kill for Librarians and Sorcerers, since they use the same animation set, when they killed the Avatar of Khaine, and it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, there are a number of very specific sync kills in this game that are between individual unit matchups. And the Force Commander does have an amazing one versus the Avatar of Khaine. He also has one against the Chaos Relic unit, which I'm sure we'll get to.
Yes. And
I'm not going to spoil it.
Nope. I will instead, since you don't have a favorite Phoenix Lord, I will instead ask you.
Yeah, take two.
Two important questions. The first one is, what's your favorite founding Space Marine Legion? It can be Chaos, or it can be Loyalist. I'm interested to know which one you like the most.
That's a hard question. Mm-hmm. Like that's a real. So are we talking about their incarnation as the Legion, or are we talking about post Horus Heresy?
It can be both. Because it's just the
Okay.
one you like the most. Like, I love the Blood Angels the most, as I said in the last episode.
Yeah, and like I'm always kind of torn between basically Alpha Legion, particularly pre-heresy when they actually did things, whereas post-heresy is just like they might be doing things. Hey, shrug. That takes it a little bit away from me. The Black Templars are the other ones that are just absolutely crazy to me.
Black Templars are pretty great.
Huh?
I said Black Templars are pretty great.
Black Templars are great when you want to watch something get blowed up because they're basically a bunch of painted black space Catholics that are just like, all right, we're gonna go blow shit up. Like that's their entire modus operandi. The other one that I always love reading about, particularly when some of the more competent writers like Abnett get hold of them, is the Night Lords, because chaos dudes who don't really care that much about the whole demon thing, but absolutely love being bloodthirsty Batman. Like, you okay?
It gets worse.
Rowan?
It gets worse.
You
Don't
okay?
worry. It gets worse. I'm about to notice it.
Like, it was a couple of people in comments recently have been giving me crap about Biden moments. First of all, I've been losing words before Biden was even on the national stage. Like, come on, man, that's been happening a long ass time. Second of all, how the fuck do you expect me to keep my composure when bull crap like that happens on?
The best part is the Dreadnought just standing there. I'm just imagining him going, "This is my favorite show. I love it when young Angelo stances for me. It calms me."
Okay, I'm fine now. But yeah, with getting back to the actual question, like Alpha Legion is basically because I really appreciate, seeing Space Marines solve their problems with something else besides furious anger. But there are times when I want to see furious anger, and the Black Templars are just like, that's the only thing I do. It's the only thing I do. I know this one move.
Yeah, it's funny actually because we talked about the Blood Angels being very focused as well. There's actually one fun fact about the Blood Angels I didn't list last time, and that is the Lucifer pattern engines. Because you see, aside from wanting, we said they want to get into close combat as fast as possible, so they developed a way to essentially soup up their engines on on most of their vehicles. So they have vehicles that can go way faster than a normal vehicle, and the Mechanicus fucking hates it. The Mechanicus is like, "What are you doing, you bastards?" And they're like, "We're not doing anything. What are you talking about?" They're like, "You're clearly hurting the engine. Stop it!" And they're like, "No." No, I don't know what you're talking about. You're crazy.
It's fine.
The Blood Angels would be getting like a Mechanicus fucking exploratory pogrom on them if they weren't the Blood Angels, basically. Because they are basically doing something that is so illegal. Like the Mechanicus are like, "That's illegal, stop!"
It's insanely illegal at that. Like, this is something I'm not certain we've explored in great detail, is precisely the level of technological stagnation that goes on, and how that is in many ways enforced by the people who are ostensibly supposed to be keepers and respecters of that technology. The Mechanicus are based on Mars, and have this incredibly like sideways way of allying with the Imperium, in that they believe in machine spirits or just like life inside of machines, and they believe that there is an overall god of machines called the Omnissiah. And the main reason why they're considered okay by Imperial doctrine is because they acknowledge the Emperor as the primary incarnation of the Omnissiah. If that sounds really weird to you, that's because the entire thing is really bloody weird. The Mechanicus have a very like like how can flesh beat metal sort of thing, to the point where they 100% disfigure the ostensibly holy human form. There's every time you see like an Archmagos or something like that, a high-ranking Mechanicus, they are 100% more machine than man. And it's so incredibly weird to see. And it goes directly into how human can they be with this, because of how they process problems and cogitate. And it's just it is a beastly situation that is so obviously hypocritical. And don't talk about it in universe. Just don't. Like, it won't end well for you. It will never end well for you.
The servitors we are using are the guys that asked that question.
Yep, pretty much. Like there's even an entire concept called a heretic, where like it's basically just heretics that did something that the Mechanicus didn't like with technology. Like they don't actually have any religious or belief problems with the Inquisition or anything like that. No, they just started hacking. Like, everybody you know who's like a software hacker or somebody who goes to like one of those maker spaces and just screws around with 3D printers and gears and all of this other junk to see what they can make. Yeah, they're all heretics. And one of the most common punishments for heretics is to have their mind shoved into a wholly and standardized technical frame to just run around as a servitor that can't hurt the machines anymore. It's just like
yeah.
What?
Yeah. Although the doctrine against rapid innovation and you know, and against the whole hacking thing is largely because a big part of what the Mechanicus was kind of lost when the Horus Heresy kicked off, because like half of Mars was for Horus, half was for the Emperor, and they unleashed catastrophic weapons on one another to the point that a lot of what they had was lost. And a lot of what they had was already just sort of pieced together from the previous fall of mankind, when the robots that they had made turned on humanity.
The Men of Iron, yes.
Yeah, the Men of Iron, as they were called, turned on humanity and essentially waged a war on them that left them vulnerable to a lot of alien species, etc., 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 and fragmented the Empire, which necessitated the Emperor bring on his Grand Crusade to reunite humanity. So they already didn't have the whole picture, and then they lost more of it. And so catastrophic was that conflict, a lot of the stuff they find might not be good. It might actually be like really, really bad, and you don't know what will happen if you take something that might be fairly normal and benign and slap something extra on it. That might just cause the whole thing to go freaking mental. They don't know.
There
they know how to make it work.
Short stories.
Yeah.
Well, there are multiple short stories about individual worlds that have gone in and they've basically made, because most of the Imperium works off what amounts to typewriters and music box sort of base technology. It's like gear punk for lack of a better term, and there's been a number of places that have gone in and rediscovered the integrated circuit and made proper computers and rubber banded their economy and everything forward leaps and bounds. And then 100 years later, everybody's in a great mood. It's a wonderful fucking day, and the computers are doing a whole bunch of work. And it turns out that this standardized, integrated circuit that has been fueling everything for 100 or 1,000 years at this point, it spells the true name of some demon of Slaanesh or Tzeentch or something like that, and then the demon says, yeah, this is a good time for me to take over this entire place and make it a demon world and wage a miniature Black Crusade on the entire subsector. It's just like, this is a great time to do that. You're never sure, because you can't prove a negative. you can't prove that this absolutely won't be a problem, which, you know, is part of the reason why, like, how you can understand the Mechanicus got into this outrageously narrow-minded and intransigent focus. It's the same basic idea behind the Inquisition with in the Imperium. Like, yeah, the Inquisition are basically a bunch of authoritarian SS sort of jackasses, right? They're secret police, and they have nearly unlimited power.
Available for deep strike from the chapel barracks. Terminators are now available.
Yes,
for deep
we
strike.
now have
That's a big
access.
deal.
We now have access to tactical Terminator Dreadnought armor. Essentially, that is a Space Marine veteran clad in nigh indestructible armor, equipped with the finest weapons that he may grant them. I'm like, oh shit, I got that by Assault Marine. See you later.
Yep, sorry.
They're so good, and we'll be showing off how strong they are. And even better is, as we get the final piece of the Space Marine battle technical puzzle, we now have the orbital beacon, and this will allow us to put units inside of it and just deep strike them onto the battlefield, turning the Space Marines from a fairly decent, good ranged mobile force to probably one of the most mobile forces in the game. You identify an enemy,
the only
you just drop shit
force
on
that's
them.
more the only force that's more mobile is the Eldar. You know, like, full stop. Like, after the Space Marines get the orbital relay, they can be anywhere with pretty much any concentration of force at any point. Like, it's insane.
Terminators themselves, when you build them, don't even deploy. They actually, you notice we now have an icon underneath the rally point there of 3 arrows. That is the teleport button. You essentially have to deploy the Terminators by teleporting them in. You can then, once you've built them up, put them back in the barracks, and then deep strike teleport them wherever you want. So what that means is you don't just have the orbital beacon full of people that you can drop, but you also have any Terminator squads you want in there ready to go too. So it's just kind of like, ah, shit. Ah, shit, suddenly the Space Marine player is in your base, killing your dudes, leaving the Avatar of Khaine at home wasn't such a bad idea after all.
Yup, suddenly there's a whole lot of pressure.
So,
anyway,
it's
just to really quick finish my thought from earlier. It's really easy to hate the Inquisition, and, you know, as far as out of game goes, you should. They're terrible fucking people in a terrible fucking organization. But in terms of in universe, it's tolerated because tolerating somebody who is a little bit deviant and doesn't do things quite the same way. There's a real possibility that they're going to open the door to a demonic invasion. Totally a thing that could happen.
I mean, Space Marine, the game Space Marine is a perfect example of that. We had an Inquisitor who was like, hey, what if I used my psychic powers to like draw out elements of the warp to use as a power source? You know, and he managed to do it, and unfortunately attracted the attention of demonic forces that then killed him and then jumped inside of his body and used this and tricked the Imperium into like ascending his lord to demonhood. It's just like, yeah, that's basically
costing
it.
the Imperium half of a Forge world. You know, like big stakes.
Very big, big stakes, big mistakes.
Yeah, true story.
Now, here's the second question for you.
Alright.
Do you have... well, actually, you know what? I think you already answered that, honestly. Because I was going to ask you what your favorite successor chapter was. Technically, that's the Black Templar. The Black Templar are a successor chapter, so that would probably be your answer on that one.
I do like the if we're going to go for all of the success. Okay,
it's all right. I have a tank unit that hunts. That's basically.
I'm just fucking whiffing on that freaking apothecary. Oh my god, that's too much. That is too freaking much. What was I thinking? In terms of successor chapters, there are some that are more interesting and nuanced though. And one of those is a little known one called the Minotaurs, which I end up liking because of their specialty of just constantly experimenting with tactics. They basically accept the precepts that we're talking about, insofar as we can't do this, we can't do that. There are good reasons for that, but we can continue to mess around with how we accomplish and how we execute. And it's just like, yes, okay. Chill. I can get behind that.
Yes, the Minotaurs are an interesting concept because there's a lot of shenanigans afoot in their background too. Because originally the Minotaurs were one of the 21st founding, the Cursed Founding, and it was so called the Cursed Founding because the folks that were basically experimenting with the gene seed did a lot of tweaks and things to try and to change a lot of things. They took the Blood Angels gene seed and tried to get rid of the Red Thirst and the Black Rage, and that caused the Lamenter chapter to be made. And they are cursed with like some of the worst fortune possible. And then the Minotaurs were another one, and the Minotaurs were originally a chapter that used the World Eaters gene seed, and they behaved much like the World Eaters did before they went full chaos. They were very stern. They didn't really like talking to others. They tended to stick to themselves, not follow the chain of command, all sorts of things, until eventually they disappeared from the Imperial history altogether. The Minotaurs that reappeared were a lot better behaved, a lot better equipped, and tended to basically follow the High Lords of Terror. There is a very strong suggestion that the Minotaurs themselves were essentially made under the table, the new Minotaurs, made under the table by certain members of the High Lords of Terror, the ruling Council of Terror in the absence of the Emperor. And that they're going to basically solve any of the problems that they're having by sending in the Minotaurs. And the Minotaurs are quite fond of Space Marine on Space Marine violence as a means to test themselves. In order to test their tactics, as they featured in two particularly famous Space Marine versus Space Marine conflicts. The first was the Mechanicus heresy. Mechanicus was an Imperial Guard general, commander, best compared to Alexander the Great because he did what Alexander the Great did. He pushed into regions that are long thought impossible to get to, and see, this is the bridge holding I was talking to, and upon his death, when he had finally gone too far for his men to be able to continue to go, the entire sort of areas he'd built had fragmented. Old grievances rose up. Guardsmen fought Guardsmen, Space Marine fought Guardsmen, Space Marine fought Space Marines, and a lot of forces were sent in to deal with that. And the Minotaurs were one of them. And the Minotaurs almost wiped out one of the Space Marines. I think the Nova Marines. I think it might have been.
I think that's correct. Let me double check that real quick.
And so basically, they are persona non grata with the Ultramarines and a lot of the other ones. They're basically like, if we see these guys on the battlefield, we will not work with them, and we may even just like fucking blow them up, these fuckwits. So it's because it was generally seen as being way too heavy-handed. Two Space Marine chapters were fighting. The one Marine chapter's fleet was crippled, so they couldn't back out and leave. And so the Minotaurs essentially chased the other faction out of the system and then just smashed the Space Marines that were still there into gravel until they like surrendered with a tiny handful of them left. And knowing Space Marines, it's like they probably should have just given them the option to like back down, because that they would have taken that. If just attacked, they would fight to the last. That's the nature of Space Marines. So the Minotaurs kind of went in on that. And the second one was the Badab system conflict.
Right,
which
that
is
was the
my
other
favorite
one that I was thinking of when I named them specifically.
That's my favorite Space Marine verse. That's actually my favorite conflict in general. The Badab conflict was it's based around this place in space known as the Maelstrom. It's like a much smaller Eye of Terror, but no less filled with horrible aliens, warp beings, heretics, and other things. And it grows and falls, and essentially the Imperium was like, we've got lots of really important resources that we need to get out there to help fuel our war machines. So let's here we go. I've just did a deep strike on a servitor.
Just showing how it works. It's cool.
Yeah, and now we're gonna drop some dreadnoughts in because bam,
this is gonna end poorly for the Eldar.
This is how you use your orbital relay.
What's up, buddies? How's it going?
You drop death on the enemy, and they ain't gonna have much they can do about it.
Just as a quick note, it wasn't one chapter. It was actually 2 chapters that the Minotaurs almost wiped out: the Doom Warriors and the Inceptors.
Ah, okay, there you go. Yeah, I think the Nova-Marines were at Badab, and they got trounced, I think, actually, by my favorite successor chapter, but we'll get to that in a second.
the Lamenters?
No.
Oh.
The Minotaurs actually were the ones who took the Lamentars out of the conflict and claimed a large portion of their space fleet by...
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I know that they walked away with a bunch of Lamenters warships out of the Badab conflict, but I couldn't remember the specifics surrounding that.
Yeah, so what happened with Badab is that the High Lords were like, well, we really need this territory for its resources, but there are so many pirates out there, like, we just can't protect all of them. And they said, well, let's assign some Space Marines. So there was already one Space Marine group out there, the Mantis Warriors, who had their homeworld in one area, and were doing a fairly decent job of protecting it. So they sent in the Astral Claws, the Lamenters, who were a fleet-based chapter, and another chapter who were eventually pulled out as the alliance was actually making grounds. And this started to be a sort of a thing, as the Astral Claws were ostensibly in charge of the entire operation. They would make great gains, and then the Greater Imperium would like make some demand of them, or like pull resources away from them and not give them resources back, and it would eventually like allow the Maelstrom to get stronger again and everything like that. And so the chapter master of the Astral Claws, I don't even know how to pronounce his first name, but it might be Luft Haron. He basically went, I am so mad about this, and started to make the Badab system and more surrounding systems beholden to the Space Marines more than the Greater Imperium. And as a result, nearby lords who grew fat off the trade and everything like that found themselves cut off, and they were like, they started agitating, and a Space Marine chapter known as the Fire Claws got involved, and then it just kept, I think it was the Fire Angels, but anyway, it just kept escalating and escalating and escalating until eventually it turned into all-out conflict in an attempt to subdue the Badab conflict, because the Badab had essentially declared itself a succession.
Independent.
Yeah. And in matters of honor, the Mantis Warriors and the Lamenters sided with the Astral Claws because they believed them to have been just simply trying to do their job, and that they were being unfairly prosecuted by outside forces. And so, as time went on, they realized that there was a lot more going wrong with the Astral Claws than they realized. They were using the gene seed of a thought-destroyed chapter that may have honestly had chaos corruption in it. They were stealing Space Marine gene seed from other chapters in the conflict. They had exceeded the chapter numbers. Huron was getting increasingly maniacal. He used an old blood debt between the Astral Claws and the Executioners chapter to drag them into the war, and so enters my favorite chapter, the Executioners. The Executioners are an Imperial Fist successor chapter that behave nothing like the Imperial Fists. They basically act more like World Eaters, if the World Eaters had a sense of reeling back from going just a little bit too far. The Space Wolves are quite fond of the Executioners, actually. They call them the Laughing Headsmen. That's not because they laugh. That's the joke that the Space Wolves make about the Executioners. The Executioners, during one particular conflict where a idiot arch cardinal heretic guy decided he was going to pull away from the Emperor during the Age of Apostasy, when unfortunately the church of the God Emperor was subverted by a very corrupt, insane man, and also took over control of the Empire, of the Imperium.
This seems to happen a lot, but yeah, you're if you're thinking this internal conflict in the Imperium seems to happen a lot, you're right. It does.
It's a big place, so this sort of thing does happen. But basically this one guy was like, well, I'm going to lay siege to the Space Wolves' homeworld of Fenris and take them out because I have so much, I can do it. And also at that same token, Fenris was under-defended at the time and all this other stuff, and they were just like, yeah, we can do this. We'll take out a major element that would stop this rebellion. And it didn't go very well because Fenris is a hell fucking world. They had no idea what they were in for. But the Executioners
like,
also
this is where
turned up.
Death World comes from, is places like Fenris.
Yeah, the Executioners also turned up to help out the Space Wolves, not on Fenris, but on nearby worlds, and quite famously on one world they landed, they started killing, and they did not stop killing until the entire planet was on fire. The only people that were spared were those who got down on their hands and knees and begged for forgiveness.
This is like shades of World Eaters for while we're keeping score. In case somebody listening isn't familiar, the World Eaters are one of the original legions that eventually turned traitor and became Chaos Space Marines. They were led by the Primarch Angron, who is defined pretty much exactly by how his name sounds. Like, they're angry. That just The entire chapter is angry. That's how they do.
Yeah, we'll talk a bit more about them in Winter Assault because they're the Chaos faction.
Right. It's that's all you need to know for right now.
Yeah, and so having successfully subjugated the planet through non-stop violence, the heads of pretty much every single one they like heretic and traitor that they killed along the way was laid out, and they on their way back along the roads on their way back to the spaceports to leave, and the fires that they caused burned for like years onwards without because there wasn't enough people to try and put them out, so it just kept burning. And the Executioners were brought in, and to be honest, they knew Huron was a fuckwit. They did not want a part of this, but they were obligated by a blood debt. They were one of those chapters. And they went, well, okay, but we're not going to help you with any of your plans. We're going to pursue our own targets of opportunities, and we're going to allow the enemy to surrender. We're going to allow them to leave if they want. And Huron was like, okay, now, I hate this. I hate this so much because I want to murder all these people. And eventually Huron was sending fleets following in their wake to clean up after them. And when the Executioners found out in one particular point when they managed to subdue the Salamanders, who had been a part of the battle, the Salamanders being probably the nicest guys in the entirety of the Imperium.
Yeah, they're the closest thing you're gonna find to a good guy in the Imperium is the Salamanders chapter.
Yeah, the Salamanders had been jumped by the Executioners and had surrendered, and the Executioners were currently sort of working out the terms of that surrender when the Astral Claws jumped on them, and were going to raid the gene seed banks of the Salamanders. Basically steal their chapter's future from them. And when the captain in charge of the Salamanders was like, dude, we surrendered. They're doing this. How dare you let them do this? You said we were under your protection since we surrendered. And the guy in charge of the executioners at the time was the High Chaplain, the High Executioner. Sorry, not the High Executioner. The High Executioner is Chapter Master. But he was basically in charge because the Chapter Master went, I will accept this, but I'm going to kill myself as a way to redeem our chapter, so that the shame of doing this only sits on me. And nobody follows my orders from after that. And so, yes, he executed himself. And so it was placed in the hands of the chief chaplain, Thulsa Khaine, which is a fucking name, by the way.
Yeah, no joke.
And Thulsa Khaine basically went, blood debts off, fuck you, and basically just started kicking the shit out of everybody who went near them, particularly the Astral Claws, on a fucking one-chapter rage, and it took the Salamanders ages afterwards to finally come in and say, look, come on, okay, dude, look, if we pull out now, we can save your chapter, we the Salamanders, because you guys actually did right by us, we will lend the full weight upon you so that you don't get the worst of this shit. And they went, okay, and they left. Because they're actually kind of more reasonable than everyone gives them credit for. A lot of chapters are still really mad at them because they kicked the shit out of a lot of chapters.
Yeah.
A lot of chapters. The Minotaurs, the Minotaurs also got their teeth belted a few times by them as well.
This is basically the connection between the Executioners and the Minotaurs that he's been creeping up to. By the way, one of the primary things that links them is that very few Space Marine chapters like them because of their history of just beating the shit out of other Space Marine chapters.
And so the ultimate outcome of the Badab conflict was the Astral Claws were destroyed. The Badab system was more or less absolutely annihilated. The home world of the Astral Claws of the Badab system was half blown up by the efforts of the Kakaradon's Astra, aka the Space Sharks, deciding that the best way to end the conflict was just to overload the thermal generators inside the planet's core and blow it up, and which, to be fair, was true. The Mantis legions, the Lamenters, and the Executioners were all found to have, basically they were all found to have been essentially acting in terms of the honor and the rights of the Space Marines and everything like that. So the Mantis Legion and the Lamenters lost their homeworld / chapter fleet ships. They had to undergo 100 years penitence crusades whilst not being able to recruit any more troops. The Lamenters unfortunately flew straight into High Fleet Kraken, which is really unfortunate for them. And
really unfortunate is like the two-word sum up of the Lamenters' entire existence. So that scans.
And and I'm not sure actually what's happened with the Mantis Legion, but the Executioners were found to have been far less culpable in all of this because of their blood debt that they were honoring and the way that they conducted themselves in the battle and things like that. So they were basically found to have been put in a really fucked up situation. And the Salamanders spoke up for them too, which means a lot. The word of a first founding chapter speaking up for you after you've just been killing other Space Marines, big fucking deal. So the Salamanders basically took custodian control of the homeworld of the Executioners. Executioners also had to go on a 100-year penitent crusade, which has been going really well for them. Funnily enough, they've been kicking the shit out of everybody they go near. The Executioners were a lot better off because of the way that they fought their battles. They did a lot of hit and run attacks. They based themselves in a location that not even their allies knew. They essentially fought in a way that ensured that they would survive with better numbers through, so they're still a mostly intact chapter. Actually, probably their biggest advantage in all of that is that in their past history, they had fought against a particularly powerful rogue trader. Rogue traders being people who are allowed by the Imperium to travel out to unexplored space, and claim planets and resources for themselves, for the Imperium, obviously, but to basically get first dibs profit on all of these places and things like that.
They're effectively privateers with letters of marque from the Age of Sail.
Orbital bombardment is the other thing we get for having the orbital relay. Everything's going to move out of the way, unfortunately, because they realize what's happening. Don't worry, I will be using this a lot throughout the game, so we'll see a lot better shots of it next time. But it goes for quite a while. It's a great way to cut off a part of the battlefield, and also if you're not being careful to blow your own troops up.
Yeah, no, I have definitely blown up my own dudes.
But yeah, so the Executioners were they essentially found a rogue trader who didn't want to die of old age, and so he made pacts with the Chaos Gods. And he even had some World Eater Space Marines under his employ, and the Executioners managed to get aboard his extremely large, extremely fast, extremely dangerous customized ship known as the Night Hag, and they managed to get on board of it and take the ship over, which is quite a feat unto itself considering everything was on board it. And as a result, they got it cleaned out, and the Mechanicus refitted it for them. In return for access to the ship's logs and everything like that, so everything that they discovered would belong to them. And the Night Hag is a very effective hit and run vessel because of the sheer power and speed it has. So the Executioners use that a lot. So yeah, I like them. I like the Badab conflict. It's huge. Imperial Armor books 9 and 10 from Forge World are the biggest examples of information you can get from that. That's the key. I'm gonna go right for the key now.
You've proven your point against the Eldar. Yeah. Just as a point of fact against the Mantis warriors, they were indeed sentenced to their 100-year conflict, and they the weird thing about them is that they ended up with a story somewhat similar to the Lamenters, only they didn't stumble into it face first the way the Lamenters ended up doing, because the Mantis warriors aren't of the cursed founding. Basically, they got pulled into a conflict against a Tyranid Hive Fleet, or Splinter Hive Fleet, and did so well against the Death Watch, which is the anti-Xeno kill squad. Basically, we're like, man, these guys can freaking fight against the Xenos, and they ended up taking a whole bunch of Mantis Legion into their ranks, and that was more or less how the chapter as a whole survived their penitent crusade, which is basically they were operating with Death Watch support. So even though they couldn't recruit new neophytes, they were still fighting, and they were connected to other resources.
It lies within reach now. You sense its power, do you not? Still think you have the strength to use it against me? All that stands in your way is the Farseer.
Kill me, obliterate my body, and cast my name to the wind. But you must heed me. Bury that which lies beneath my feet. It will undo us all. I may be your enemy in this, but we both have a greater foe.
Do not listen, Gabriel. We must destroy this alien.
She knows much. Much we need to learn.
What could she offer but lies? Do not trust her, Gabriel.
The key! No! Damn you!
Who was that alien? What did he steal?
A key. The last step along a bloody path.
A key to what?
The undoing of us all.
Stop speaking in riddles.
He stole a key. A key to the shadows of this world, to the evil horror that lies within.
Tell me what this key does.
You do not know. Your Inquisitor keeps you on a short leash. He knows. Ask him.
How dare you speak ill of the Emperor's loyal subject?
He has known since he arrived. Or should I say, he never left. Do you not think it convenient he appeared from nowhere and landed on the cusp of a warp storm? Or that I know him already? Human, you are caught in events beyond your reckoning. But we can help one another and stop the forces of chaos from succeeding.
You fought well, alien. And while we share common goals, I cannot risk your betrayal in this matter. You have squandered enough of my attentions.
No. For better or worse, we are locked in our course now, him and I. Your enemies have taken position in the Danan City sector. They will not remain there long. We are too weak to fight them. You have seen to that.
I hate Eldar so goddamned much.
I just love the... Tell me what it does. It does this weird ephemeral thing. Can you just, can you please just, stop, okay? Just please, for the love of God.
He asks her 3 fucking times. I should say, he follows up on the question 3 fucking times. He asks her 4 times. She still won't answer him, and is just like, "Hey, trust me anyway." And by the way, no, you can't have. You trusting me means nothing. I'm not going to help you because I've been spending so much time fighting you, and now I'm going to bitch at you because I'm too weak to do anything. What the fuck is wrong with you? Damn, I'm so happy that Matcha ends up eating shit. Fuck Eldar, fuck Matcha, fuck Biel Tan, fuck the entire ridiculous damn social infrastructure that bore witness to these insufferable assholes.
I've been the last Robokai.
And I've hated Eldar.
We'll see you all next time.